Hello everyone, David Lang here from Israeli Cool. How you're doing? I'm not going to ask you if the camera's the right way up. I'm pretty sure it is, and every time I ask that, many of you are answering that question for days afterwards. And this is a live video, so I need, speedy answers. That's what live's all about. Anyway, I hope you're all doing okay. Here in Israel, and I'm sure it's like this in many places around the world, the restrictions for the coronavirus are loosening. We already have a return to the houses of worship, synagogues and the like. There's a restriction on the number of people that can actually go to the synagogues and the other houses of worship, and you have to keep social distancing. But it's a big step. And also, kids are going back more or less full time to school next week. So I hope you're all slowly enjoying the freedoms that are coming to us, and please God, may the positive trend in terms of new coronavirus cases continue. We just don't want to relapse in the matter. Here in Israel, it is Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day. Obviously, those of you who live here, Jewish people who are watching this, probably know all about it. Many of you might not know much about it, especially if you're coming here from my personal Facebook page, where I'm going to be posting this video later on. What is Yom Yerushalayim, you ask? By the way, L'chaim. I forgot. I have to get in the habit. This is a fireside chat, so you have to see the fireside. So first of all, let's just have a look what's on the grill this week. Ribs and steak, and you see in the corner there, stuff I've already done, because I don't want to... I'm talking, you have my attention, and I don't want to burn the most important part, which is the food for Shabbat. L'chaim, by the way. I just got a phone call, by the way, if that just cut out. So I hope that wasn't someone saying that this is the wrong way up. So I didn't put this on airplane mode. Can someone just quickly comment and confirm that this is the right way up? Is someone, hey buddy, yep, am I the right way up? Someone just say if the camera is the right way up. Jason, hi, how you doing? Good Shabbos to you too. So I just got a call from someone and I had to quickly, yeah, I'm the right way up. Okay, great. Okay, so no calls please, no phone calls if you're watching this, okay? Anyway, where was I? Okay, Yom Yerushalayim. Okay, so Yom Yerushalayim, we celebrate, us in Israel, the reunification of East and West Jerusalem, okay, during the Six-Day War in 1967. And I think the whole world should be celebrating this, to be perfectly honest. It should be an international holiday because all religions of the world should be celebrating this. People from all religions, and even if you're not a religious person, because it celebrates a day where Jerusalem is open to everyone in the world. Now, before the re-establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, Jews especially were not able to visit their holy sites without restrictions. Look at New York Times articles, for instance, from the 1920s, where, and I've posted about this on my blog before, where we were we had to provide money and basically bribe the Muslims who were in control, the Waqf who were in control of the holy sites. Not just, by the way, the Western Wall, but also, the Marat HaMachpelah in Hebron and other places. So everyone was really restricted. And then, after the War of Independence, so after the establishment of the State of Israel, there's a big War of Independence. So they tried to annihilate us, like they do once in a while, or actually too often for our liking. And basically, Jordan was in control of the old city of Jerusalem from 1949 to 1967. During those 18 years, they ransacked synagogues and we couldn't go to one of our holiest sites. I say one of our holiest sites because there's a big misconception out there that the Western Wall, the Kotel, is the holy site in Judaism. That's not true. That's on the outskirts. While we do pray there, that's as close as many of us can get. But the Temple Mount, where they've built the mosques, the Muslims have built their mosques, that's the holiest site. Now, be that as it may, even though that's our holy site, what has happened since we reunified Jerusalem, and I was going to say we're in control, but we're not really in control. The Waqf is in control. But basically, we've enabled and we've preserved religious freedom for everyone including the Muslims. And in fact, Jews, I know people are going to be commenting on this because actually it's not exactly true, because do Jews have complete religious freedom on the Temple Mount? No. We're kowtowing to the Muslim authorities, and we're actually restricting Jews in terms of being on the Temple Mount. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to rant about that today. But my point is that since 1967, all peoples have been able to enjoy the old city of Jerusalem, which was not the case. And if this is all new to you, please don't take my word for it. I always encourage people to do their own research. Go online, Google it. I have nothing to hide because what I'm saying is the truth, okay? And because I do my research, and I'm not going to stand here and lie to anyone. So that's a little bit about Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, which we're celebrating here in Israel, which I think should be a celebration for all people in the world. Okay, that's actually not what I wanted to talk about today. That's just the preamble. What I thought I would talk about today is the topic of aid to Gaza, and in particular talk about two stories that have come to light this week. One has been much more advertised, much more popular story in the mainstream media, and one I wrote about on my blog, and I'm hoping we'll get to the mainstream media because it's very important. But just stick with me because I'm going to tie them together, and it says a lot about the so-called Palestinian cause, as well as the difference between those who call themselves pro-Palestinians, that I call anti-Israel very deliberately, and the pro-Israel people. First story, and some of you might have already heard about this. There was history this week as a United Arab Emirates plane landed at Ben Gurion. Now, clearly this is indicative of a warming of relations. And by the way, speaking about warming, this week in Israel, we've had most days have been over 40 degrees Celsius, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm personally a Celsius man, so you guys will have to do the math yourself. Today, right now, it's actually quite pleasant, but it's going to be much hotter later. Be that as it may, there was a United Arab Emirates plane that landed. Now, why did it come to Israel? It wasn't just obviously the groundwork was laid with the warming of our ties between the two countries, but it had a very specific purpose. And the purpose was it was bringing about 16 tons of aid, I believe. I definitely brought aid. I think it was about 16 tons for, medical supplies to deal with the coronavirus pandemic in in Gaza and the Palestinian territories. So everyone should be celebrating that as well, especially the Palestinians and especially all those that call themselves pro-Palestinian. But that wasn't the case. How did the Palestinian Authority, how did Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority react to the news? I mean, many of you already know the answer to this, and those that don't could probably guess it because you're all very smart if you're following Israeli cool. Basically, Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority refused the aid. Why? Because it came through Israel and it wasn't coordinated through them, and they didn't want to be a conduit towards normalization between Arab nations and Israel. Now, can you believe that? Just think about that for a second. By the way, it wasn't just that. Iran also, who have been in the news this week, maybe I'll get to it, maybe I won't, but they also were very dead against this, and they condemned the United Arab Emirates for sending aid to the Palestinians for the same reason, because it went through Israel. Now, Israel coordinated this through the World Health Organization. We just wanted to get the aid to the Palestinians. They say they need aid, and we're trying to enable that. But it is the people and the nations that claim to support the Palestinians that were dead against it. And it's not just that. I wrote about it, and some Israeli sites wrote about it. Bloomberg and maybe some other mainstream media sites wrote about it. But you know who didn't write about this? Take a guess. The so-called pro-Palestinians, the BDS movement, haven't said anything about it. And all these that claim to love the Palestinians haven't written about it. And when I say written about saying, wow, they're getting aid. This is a great thing. Or more, let's be realistic, they're not going to say that, but they should at least be reacting to Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority refusing the aid. If you care about Palestinians, don't you care that they get the aid? Isn't that what's important, that the man on the street, the man and woman and children on the street get, they've been complaining for so long, that they're boxed into Gaza, and that this is, it's going to be an absolute disaster with the coronavirus, and they lack medical supplies. Okay, we're enabling them to get medical supplies. Mahmoud Abbas is saying, no, I don't want it. And I don't hear anyone on the so-called pro-Palestinian side talking about it. Okay, that's story number one. I'll get back to it in a minute. Story number two, which you might not have heard about unless you've read my blog this week, is that for a while now I've uncovered a number of scam fundraising campaigns online, thanks to mainly with the efforts of a reader called Michal. Hi Michal, if you're watching this. And we noticed that there are, these like GoFundMe and things like that, for the poor of Gaza. But the pictures they were using were what I call photography, F-A-U-X-T-O-G-R-A-P-H-Y. Because they're false pictures, they're fake. They're from other parts of the world. Now, you have to ask the question that if there are so many poor people in Gaza, just, take a picture of them and use that for the campaign. Or if the campaign at least is truly for them, you would do that. But no, these are clearly fake. Coming from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Syria, different parts of the world. And some of them have even been shut down thanks to Michal's efforts. So I wrote about that a while ago. And at the time I wonder if this money is going to Hamas. And we have a bit of an answer, a possible answer to where this money might be going. So basically this week, it was actually last week, but I posted about it yesterday. There is an anonymous Israeli undercover reporter / commentator called Abu Ali Express, who has an Instagram channel. It's all in Hebrew and does some great work, by the way. And Imshin, there's a Twitter user called Imshin that some of you might be aware of, and she's mainly known for doing, how I have my concentration camp Gaza series. So she does way more in terms of showing what the Gaza you don't see. That's how she hashtags it. That Gaza we don't see. And she does great work there. So she actually translated many of the posts that this Abu Ali Express did in Hebrew. And it had to do with these scam fundraising campaigns. It was a little bit different because the ones that Abu Ali Express was talking about happened to be in Arabic. But I believe that they're all somehow connected. And what's happening? So basically someone is putting up, sometimes with an actual charitable organization, asking for donations to help the poor of Gaza. Now, there have been poor or people in Gaza that have been bribed to get bread, like with bread. They have to go to some place and they'll take a picture of you, begging for something, and you get bread for it. To get that sort of money shot, so to speak. For the fundraising campaign. And basically what's been happening is it's a huge scam. There have been these rich, greedy, horrible Gazans who have basically been pilfering the money. They're called digital beggars. And there was a journalist that actually exposed this, and he was called in by Hamas. And then, and you can follow this on my website because I posted about this yesterday. There's a picture of him and he's got like, it's really hot, as I mentioned before in this talk. And he's wearing like a coat up to here, and he's like saying, I'm so sorry, I got my facts wrong. Clearly he'd been bashed to smithereens and he had bruises everywhere. I mean, that's the implication of the picture. And he retracted what he was saying about these scams. But what to cut a long story short, these scam fundraising campaigns, which are supposed to be raising money for the poor people of Gaza, have been going to rich fat cats, and Hamas are definitely in on it, because if they bashed up this journalist that exposed it, clearly they're getting some sort of percentage, and it's disgusting. Now, let's tie these two topics together. So I wrote about this, Imshin tweeted about it, this Abu Ali Express was the originator, but again, I'd been talking about these scam fundraising campaigns for a while now. Where are the so-called pro-Palestinians on this? Why aren't they making a big fuss about this? Why aren't they saying, hey, we love the Palestinians, and in Gaza there are poor people and the money needs to go to them? Only when Israel is the villain of the piece, and we're not the villain, but even when they can try to paint us as the villain, that's when they say anything. And that's why I don't call these people and organizations and websites pro-Palestinian. There's no such thing. It's anti-Israel. And in fact, if you look at the history of this so-called Palestinian identity, which came up after the Second World War, some would say as late as the 1960s, it was basically a reaction to Israel. It's a negation It's all about negation. It's about a negation of Israel and the Jewish people living in their homeland. It's not a positive thing. You know, you see that there are so-called the Palestinian refugees all over the Arab world, like in Lebanon. They're discriminated against there. It's a real phenomenon. I would fathom to say, and this is probably my most controversial statement, but I really truly believe it, is that the pro-Israel and Israel advocates care about the average Palestinian people more than those that claim to be pro-Palestinian. And let me explain. Israel advocates like myself, you know, when Palestinians are suffering, we'll point it out. But we'll point out when there's some sort of, you know, lying going on and photography and libels against Israel. When Palestinian terrorists do something, we condemn that. Because, you know, God-fearing, not even God-fearing, you know, just reasonable people, you know, should condemn murder of innocent people. On the other side, if Palestinians, innocent Palestinians, die as collateral damage when there's a conflagration or war in Gaza, you don't see people like me celebrating that. I mean, God forbid. It's a horrible thing. There's a price to pay in war, and sometimes these, you know, most of the times these things can't be avoided. Sometimes mistakes happen, but we don't celebrate that. On the other side, and when I say the other side, many Palestinians, but also so-called pro-Palestinians and their supporters, they will celebrate when Israelis die. Now, when there's this terrorism, what do these so-called pro-Palestinians say? They say, you know, it's resistance, and what do you expect when you know, persecute these people? Basically, what they're saying is that the Palestinian Arabs don't have agency. They're not able to control themselves. They let anger get the better of them. That is one of the most anti-Palestinian things I could think of. If you're saying that these are robots that can't think, that can't make moral choices, then you're basically very anti-Palestinian. If you say that about Muslims, by the way, with terror attacks are committed in the name of Islam by some radical extremists, then you're Islamophobic. And, you know, on the other hand, as I said, Israel advocates, we believe that Palestinians should be treated like, you know, decent human beings and have rights of decent human beings. And they shouldn't resort to terror because they can think and they can make moral choices. Anyway, so I'm just flipping things on the head and making everyone just think about it for a second, because we sort of accept certain talking points and certain behaviors from different people, not just Palestinians, but also their so-called supporters. But as I mentioned with these two stories today, they're not pro-Palestinian. These so-called supporters are anti-Israel. They're defined by their hatred of Israel and ultimately the Jewish people. And they couldn't give a rat's you-know-what about the Palestinian people when it boils down to it. Because if they did, they'd be making noise about these scam fundraising campaigns. And they'd certainly be making noise about the fact that Mahmoud Abbas and the PA, who should be looking after their own people, are refusing aid. I mean, it's a disgrace. This should actually go to the UN, as far as I'm concerned, and the PA should be condemned. But again, it's just the Israel advocates mainly who are mentioning this story. So I would encourage everyone watching this, whether you're a supporter of Israeli Kul and Israel, or whether you're new to it and you're listening to me because you're a personal friend who doesn't necessarily accept my politics, please listen with an open mind to what I'm saying. Do your own research. But this is an absolute disgrace, and it should be plastered all over the news. Anyway, that's what I had to say today. Shabbat Shalom. Have a great weekend, everyone. And Yom Yerushalayim Sameach. A happy Jerusalem day to everyone. Take care and please be safe.